Yes, Mrs. Zhou, we lost you there. Are you there? Okay, she's joining. Okay, she was telling us, kindly unmute yourself and share with us that story that you are still sharing. We're talking about the challenges that are faced by people living with disabilities.
Thank you, Pastor. As I continue with my experience sharing experiences of persons living with disabilities in their families, I once visited Impilo Hospital Rehabilitation Center, trying to gather some information, giving psychosocial support to families with the children with the disabilities. I came across a certain woman who had given birth to a child who had hydrocephalus. When I engaged and talked to the woman, she started to cry and cry. She wept. And then when I talked to her, she said that, Madam, what I wanted is a child and not this thing. Hey. Look now, hey. This lady had bitterness, referring to a child as a thing, which is a problem already starting in the family, which is supposed to go to the child. And I asked, why are you referring to the child as a thing? He said, I no more have free time. I'm always having appointments with the doctors. That's a challenge to me. I need an extra budget. Where am I going to get funding to pay these doctors for this thing? She continued weeping. And when the husband responded, he said to the wife, when you leave this hospital, don't come to my home. Take your thing and go. You see, that's the challenge emanating from the home as the first environment of the child. Instead of the parents putting hands together and support each other, they are now putting blame on each other, passing all the bereavement stages. So you find that these challenges of families having children or persons living with disabilities, they end up divorcing. That's the major challenge. And then the question is why people end up having such situations. The problem lies on society, societal attitude. Who is society? It's us around this community. Societal attitudes towards families and persons with the disabilities. The environment which the families are living is full of harassment and discrimination, which leads to stigma. Society believes having a child with a disability is a curse from God. Do you know that, Pastor? Yes. Society believes you would have wronged your gods. So it's punishment from God. And having a member with a disability in a family, we are a curse to the whole society. So you find that when somebody is faced with such labeling, will end up resorting to something else, either strangling the child, dumping the child, or keeping the child in granaries. Hey. I'm talking of practical situations, Pastor, I'm not exaggeration. So these are some of the challenges which are being faced by people with disabilities in their families. Let me take you back to the time of Plato. Plato, you know Plato, these great philosophers. During the time of the Platos, you know what, persons with the disabilities were killed. It was an omen, Pastor, to be heard that someone is having a disability. The whole family would be stigmatized. The whole family would be cursed. So there is the solution to the dilemma was to strangle or throw the child in the river so that the child can flow. But when we come to Christianity, Christianity is saying, no, this is a fellow human being. Because Genesis 1 verse 26 says, human being was made in the image of God. So what are we as a church experienced by families is due to societal beliefs? What's your take, my pastor? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for highlighting the personal experiences that you've actually met in this regard. I just want to take this to Pastor Muchinguri. You are in this situation. Some of us can only imagine this situation. Tell us the challenges that you actually experience in the family, or maybe it's the families that you have seen as somebody living with a disability.
Thank you, Pastor. I think there are two major challenges that I can cite, Pastor. And you find most of these challenges actually hinged on these two challenges. The first of which is the element on overprotection.
Okay.
You will notice that as we continue to live within our families where we might have been born and bred, people never get to learn that we as any children in the family are supposed to be left alone to learn from experience. Isn't it that it is proverbially known that experience is the great teacher? But we often you find we somewhat are denied this opportunity to experience, so much so that as I grow up in my own family,
okay,
my own siblings would be struggling to appreciate my part as a family, because the parents will be saying, don't leave this one alone. You should always keep him in company. When he wants to go to town, make sure you are by him. When he wants to go into play, be with him. When he wants to visit that small, the restroom, make sure you are there. So you are becoming a burden to your siblings. And as a family, usually the parents may not even notice it. But this overprotection is kind of bringing in division within the family, so much so that siblings may stand on their camp, leaving the child with a disability by him or herself. The second one, generally this one is coming from the community, of course, the community of which our own parents in the family are also a part. You will find that when we talk about people with disabilities, we have our own preconceived beliefs, sentiments, and these are not exactly what people with disabilities are.
Okay.
Like to say, you say, Pastor Muchinguri, I know he is not able to do this one. You'll be thinking all by yourself, maybe as my father, or as the leader of the community, or as the pastor of the church, or any other influential person. You're saying, Muchinguri cannot play football. Muchinguri can. You don't actually come to discuss it with me so that you open a forum to hear how I can play that football, if at all I can. I would rather be the person to really outrightly say, no, football is actually impossible. When you give me that microphone, that forum, for me to carry out a discussion and present my observations as a person with disabilities. But by the way, we don't live with disabilities. It's not in the blood, by the way. I think that one is. We are not supposed to be saying people living with disabilities.
Okay.
It's not in the blood. It's actually part of me.
All right.
Yeah, it's just a description, like a tall.
Okay.
We cannot say a person living with tallness.
Okay.
So these are some of the things. People think what they think about us, and they continue to execute their own thoughts without involving us. So they don't talk to us. And usually, we are not what they actually think about us.
Okay.
That's why I think you've heard of this statement to say, nothing about us without us.
Okay.
You ought to talk it in our presence so that you can hear it being said by us who are the actual football players of the disability match.
Thank you. You've said it so passionately. Thank you very much. And I'm learning. It's a learning experience. Thank you for that one. There's a lady beside you, Mrs. Muchinguri. What are the challenges that you have as you are working with Pastor Muchinguri in town, and people are looking at you as a family person, as a wife? What are the challenges that you come up with as a person who is in that kind of a family?
Okay, you've asked on the challenges, but maybe let me start on the joys of it.
All right. Okay.
I remember my first time when I visited Solusi, and it was at Solusi. This lady approaches me, who happens to be my friend. I'm sorry to use her as an example without her consent, but I'll talk to her later. And she's like, you know what? When I first heard that Muchinguri's wife is on campus, I was really so eager to see you. And you came into church. I could not wait for the church to end, because the person who pointed to me where you were seated only showed me when you were already on your seat. And you know what I was eager to see? I was just checking on what type of disability you have. And when I got close to you, I got a shock of my life. That you did not have any disability. I was married to somebody with a disability. Wow. And that other thing is the speculation.
Okay.
That's the hurting part. That people have a lot of questions, but they are not so willing to come forward to ask those questions. And they draw conclusions of what they don't know. And one of the conclusions that hurt me is that somebody just decided to go and tell my in-laws that, no, you know what? That girl is taking advantage of your son because she already has her. Pastor,
Yes.
I got clear when I'm putting it that way. But somebody had the guts to go and tell, not anybody else, but my in-laws, to say, I already have children, that I am taking advantage of their blind son. And I want to believe there are a lot of family members to say, I think the guy has bugs, that's why you are running after him. And that was an interesting but painful part of it, because I knew the truth of it. And I just referred to my commitment to the Lord. I said, Lord, this is my walk with you. It's only through you directing this journey that I'm able to handle it in a manner that you expect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We put a caption in our flyer as we were advertising this, and we said Mephibosheth also. And this is coming from 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1. And David asked, is there anyone left in the house of Saul whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? Now there was a servant of Saul's household named Ziba, and they summoned him to appear before King David. And David said, are you Ziba? And he said, at your service, he replied. Then the king, is there no one still from the house of Saul whom I can show God's kindness? And Ziba answered the king and said, there is still a son of Jonathan. He is lame both feet, in both feet. Okay, Pastor Muchinguri, was it necessary for Ziba to actually say that kind of a thing? Couldn't he say there is Mephibosheth and that was enough? What's your take on that? Yeah, what's your take on that?
That's the general problem, my pastor. Usually people are too quick to see disability before they see a human being.
Okay.
That's why you find in the Bible, sometimes when the Bible talks about a person with a visual challenge, the Bible doesn't even give him a name.
Okay.
So it's a blind person, a blind someone who was born from birth until the end story up to about verse 42, 43, thereabout. He's not even given a name.
Okay.
That is the culture, and that's still the same culture today because people see disability before seeing a human being.
Okay. That's quite deep. Seeing disability before seeing a human being. I think this looks to what Mrs. Zhou said earlier on when she spoke about this woman that she met at Ndilo who was saying this thing, and the husband also was saying, you go with this thing. So Mrs. Zhou, in your experience in working with parents with children that are living with disabilities, how can we correct this kind of attitude? How can we correct this kind of attitude?
Thank you, Pastor. My battery is running very low.
Oh, sorry.
Let me try to rush.
Yes.
Yes, Pastor, the challenge is there. The challenge is there. But the answer is on the cross of Calvary. Looking back at the story of Ziba, yes, in families, they are there, the Zibas, who take other people's opportunities and give them to others due to these restrictions. And I'm going to talk on how families may be assisted to cope with such situations, as families may be affected in a variety of ways. Life becomes complex, as challenging involve being emotional in decision-making. Really, as counselors, to be honest enough, Pastor, we talk of acceptance, but acceptance is a phase which can go and it becomes a vicious circle for some years.
Okay.
Right. As the family experiences the issue of disability, there are some stages which family might go through, which include shock, denial, anger, blame, as well as bargaining. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm saying as the family experiences these challenges, acceptance is not easy, it's a phase as the family will go through the stages of bereavement. Just like someone lost his beloved one, there is a sense of denial, anger, and the question, why me, blaming people. So it's not easy for families to make informed decisions. There is need for intervention procedures. How? We are talking of a family. A family belongs to a community, right? We find that families should be educated on the nature of the disability so as to manage the situation, right? What am I talking about is the issue of information dissemination. What causes these attitudinal problems is lack of knowledge to these families. So if educational programs are introduced so that people can be educated, beginning from the home, which is the and to this in our churches. People should be educated so that we don't. My pastor, sometime I did with the disabilities church, he had
It seems we are having a connectivity challenge there. Hello?
Church had to stand up and look back and understand and to deal with the situations of disabilities. It is my be through with one you can acquire that one is not my housing. Someone can acquire disability through, but due to these previous societal beliefs and suspicions, that's why we are a nation which should be eradicated through education. Let us educate people on what disability is, what are the causes, what are the rights of persons with disabilities. The families should be educated, the community should be educated, including those persons with disabilities, because sometimes they ending up having attitude within themselves and they become withdrawn, right? Apart from education, they also need psychosocial support. As I said before, it's not really easy to just say accept. No. Right. The family need counseling in order to cope with the situation. Why counseling? The issue is on decision, what to do now with the child. Someone might think of killing the child just because he is lacking proper information. Someone is saying, it's a thing. Hey, it's a thing, this one. That's why he got a lot of money. So if someone says, so then I need to take some action and try to please the community and not to please God. So psychosocial support is very, very important to families, right? The other thing is on financial support. As the family is encountering this challenge of having a member with a disability within the family, there is need for consultations to doctors. When it comes to education, these schools are very important for learners with disabilities. So you find that disability and poverty, sometimes they intertwine each other. You find that the family might not have funding to take the child to school, might not have funding to take the child for medication. So there is need for assistance. Let us come out with the methods, well-wishers, donors who can assist the funding for families and persons with disabilities. The family also, as the first environment of the child, should socially support the child to avoid the stigma and discrimination. We find that most of the families, they become bitter and they decide to hide these persons with disabilities so that the community cannot see that they've got a child with a disability. So they hide them in granaries, they lock them in bedrooms, the bedroom becomes the dining or the toilet and everything, just because the person is afraid of the who next to me and not the who created this person and me. Pastor Muchinguri also talked about overprotection. Sometimes other families, they accept, but after accepting, they overprotect. They tend to overprotect the child so that even feeding, no toilet training, not just because he's disabled, don't allow him to play with others. He has a disability. As families, we should encourage independence. As we are looking at Pastor Muchinguri, I want to salute his family because they managed to support him through his education. Now he's independent, he's having a wife and a family, and is now very responsible. Mr. Muchinguri is now a lecturer and is taking his children also to school. That's independence we are talking about. Let's avoid overprotection. And in the Bible, it is written that as the families in 1 Timothy 5 verse 8, we must take care of one's family. Those who want to take care for their own families are worse than non-believers. So Tina, as the families, let us support these members with the disabilities. Thank you, my pastor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I turn over to Mrs. Muchinguri. You need to respond to. Thank you for those suggestions that are very helpful in helping us to come to a situation where we are able to help families. Before I come to Mrs. Muchinguri, in the chat box, I see a very important communication, that's the discussion that is going on, and the discussion is about Mephibosheth himself. He actually called himself a worthless dog. He felt he had that deflated self-esteem. And some are saying, yeah, maybe it was because of the society that was there that was calling. Even Ziba was saying, there's this boy who is lame and whatever. Maybe the name calling could have actually contributed to that, and I'm thankful for that kind of a discussion. This is about Mephibosheth himself. Mephibosheth, if he had children, I don't know what children his children could be experiencing, and this is the question that I want Mrs. Muchinguri to respond to. And the question that I have for Mrs. Muchinguri is, how do children of parents who are disabled feel about their parents? I mean, I don't know whether you are the right person to answer that one, but maybe you have seen, you've witnessed, you have looked at your kids, and how do they feel about the disability? Yeah, I don't know whether my question is clear.
It's very clear, my pastor. Yes. From childhood, maybe they may not see a difference, but as they grow and they play with other kids, they begin to see that difference. And as they observe that difference, like the community where we live in, they may speculate and have conclusions, or that is the time when the mother has to come in and explain the situation. And it starts with the mother teaching them to appreciate them for themselves for what they are, and pointing out that we are different, we are unique. For instance, my second born, he, as he was playing one day, he says to his friend, I think he was only 4 years old, he's like, do you know why my father is always closing his eyes? And the friend says, I don't. And he's like, he likes praying too much. Okay. So he'll be praying all the time. They had not asked anybody in their conversation.
Okay.
Yet the elder brother was just too protective. He would make sure that as they play on the road, you know, they put their gates and what using stones and bricks and what have you. He would ensure that as soon as they finish, he picks up everything to clear the space for his father. So they have different opinions, and it is of paramount importance that the mother will sit them down, talk to them, explain the situation so that they appreciate the situation. Otherwise, it is very possible for them to divorce themselves from their family because of the situation. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Children also experience this, and this is what you are actually talking about is from the book of experience itself. And so we are here as the church. We are here as the church, and the attitude of Ziba is there. It is existent. I don't know who is going to take this one. How do we help? Maybe each one of you can just have a sentence on dealing with the attitude of Ziba. It's a very bad attitude that really reduces a human being to it. Maybe let me say it is a dehumanizing attitude. you are describing an individual with based on what he or she doesn't have. That's a very bad attitude. How do
Can I take it first?
Okay, you can take it first. Okay, that's fine. You can go first. How do we help the church? Because
Okay.
families.
I think the problem with the church, the problem with the attitude of us as church members is disassociating ourselves from disability.
Okay.
We think it belongs next door.
Okay.
And as we think it belongs elsewhere, it becomes the challenge even if we get affected, because disability is not permanent to a certain family. You can get a disability even in your old age. And hence you find people who would have become disabled in old age, neglect themselves. They view themselves as dead once they have a disability because of what they had in their minds as they viewed people with disabilities. But if we would embrace it, accept it, that it's a certain phase that is likely to come in anybody's life at any time, we will view it differently. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Pastor Muchinguri, I think you are the next one, and then Mrs. Zhou, and then we'll open it to the floor whilst we conclude.
Okay. I think what I can say to the church, much as I would advise, much as I would have advised Ziba, if
okay,
I would have said, do not judge the book by its cover. That's a general public mistake,
okay.
and usually we are not immune to that mistake, no matter how long this adage has been said. It's an over-hackneyed adage, but we know it, but we hardly refrain ourselves from its practice. Remember what happened to Jesse? Yes, Jesse just said, I've got someone now. Well, he's out there. He's out there. He's out there. Don't worry, prophet. You know what we discover? He becomes the very person whom God had chosen for anointing. So usually, those people whom we feel are useless in the society really become the most useful persons. No wonder why Jesus says that stone that was laid away by the builders is now become the what?
The chief
cornerstone. The cornerstone. It's biblical. What an advice. Another thing I think that causes this. So people with disabilities, sometimes I think we fuel the change, this attitude, because we ourselves never see ourselves as people of value, an individual of value. Imagine the response by Mephibosheth. He says, I'm a dog, O king. What is it? I'm only a dog. So if you see yourself as a dog, let me tell you, the rest of the public will actually see you or see me as someone who ought to have been long in the grave. Because you can't live with living dogs in the form of human beings. So once we kind of degrade ourselves as human beings, as people with disabilities, once I say I'm very useless, what do you think my neighbor will say? Obviously, she will agree and say, obviously, I was actually waiting for a statement. You know what you are saying, really, you are not worthy. So we ourselves ought to understand that we have a God who created us, who obviously even has an image. That is so. No wonder why Jesus had to say, God did it deliberately because he wanted to have his powers be demonstrated in this blind person. And when Christ came, today we know that Christ opens the eyes of the blind through that guy who was born blind. We have a lesson in that. Others go to today that, oh, so a blind person can be a lecturer. This is what God can do. But it doesn't start all from there. It comes as people worthy of living. After all, who knows? Even those people whom are thinking they are able-bodied, they have some form of disability. As you may know, every cloud has got a silver lining anyway.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, thank you. Mrs. Zhou, we have 2 minutes remaining. You can take that one before we come to an end.
Thank you, my pastor. Looking back at Ziba's attitude, yes, it's an issue of information dissemination, as I indicated before, the issue of education, right? We should have educational programs in our church so that people would be guided well and know exactly how to manage issues of disabilities. This is only ignorance that led Ziba to react in such a manner, thinking that he is right, of which some of us, this is the practice in the church today. There are a lot of Zibas in the church, and this type of attitude, which needs to be removed through education. I propose the church should put viable programs for persons with disabilities. I understand is there.
Okay, we have lost Mrs. Zhou. We have lost her. She was bringing that important point, and we are thankful for the time that we have had, and we want to thank the Lord for this time. Unfortunately, my time is already up. I really wanted people to interact with us, but we want to thank the participants, the panelists, for this wonderful presentation, and they have spoken from the book of experience, and they have shared personal journeys. And I want to thank people from the participants' suggestions of having ramps in churches. And we pray the Lord that He may help us in such matters. May the Lord richly bless us. For the question and answer session, my Zoom is going to cut, but then I'm going to restart it, and then we will get into the to the question and answer session, because I want us to interact. So when it cuts, we will restart, and then we will get into a question and answer session, just to help us. So keep your questions. We are going to shortly get into a question and answer session. So thank you very much for the lesson. Thank you for participating. And when we come the third time around, it's a question and answer session. So I'll end the meeting and restart it so that you